The primitive forms of artificial intelligence we already have proved very useful.
AI is a golden opportunity.
How do we ensure that this technology is regulated?
The long arc of technological history is now in an extraordinary new phase.
The AI6 podcast with Joanne Sweeney.
Lorcan Kinsella from brand Nova, thank you so much for joining me on the AI6 podcast.
Thank you, Joanne. I'm delighted to be here.
We go way back in terms of, training together, working together, being in the digital marketing industry in Ireland. So we've seen so much change. We've had to upskill. How would you describe the latest wave of transformation in digital marketing that is artificial intelligence?
Well, funny enough, as you kind of say that, Joanne, I can remember, when you have like your phone, you have these kind of memories come up on your phone. And only there just, I'd say 2 weeks ago, there was a memory that came up, I think it was around maybe 9 years ago. I think we were actually, I'm not sure if it was actually in business school or some corporate kind of, and we were training together. And we came up in this photo together, and I couldn't believe it now, to be honest. You still look as young as then as you do now, which is amazing. I've got maybe a tad less hair, but I'm still here. I'm still smiling. But at that time, like we were actually kind of in that, I suppose, digital marketing training. And I can remember, that it was kind of, it was the newest kind of show in town at the time. Like, and we then hooked up and we went on for a number of years, like, I think it was actually Learning Waves. And it was just such a fantastic experience, kind of like just kind of working alongside of you. But since then, things have just really gone a bit bonkers. And I think I can remember at the time where I found it back then a small bit overwhelming because of the amount of information that whether it be even someone who was in the space and could understand what was going on in terms of whether it be search engine optimization, pay-per-click advertising, social media ads, email marketing, not to mention the 42 different social media platforms we should be on. And you had all of that information and you had it all going on. And then you're kind of, for me, it was actually all trying to manage it through an Excel spreadsheet, but hundreds of them. And now we're actually in a space of where we now have AI. And to be honest, where I would have maybe at the time looked into developing a piece of software, Nova 360, which I'll speak to you kind of later on about, but it was really AI at the moment, the way it has evolved is pretty extraordinary in terms of where it's evolved into that sort of kind of prompt piece, but in our space within digital marketing. And ultimately, you can't really mention digital marketing around what ultimately it affects most, and that is business. So it has been a transformative time in digital marketing, but it has been a doubly, it's kind of milestones ahead of then where you see business and all of that and how you kind of translate or communicate. And I know you're communicating this kind of on a daily, weekly basis, but to communicate that down to businesses of where there's a fear factor, there's actually kind of a sense of education again. It's like starting all over again.
It really is. And, when Sam Altman introduced ChatGPT to the world in November 2022, I kind of sighed and went, oh gosh, I'm going to have to reinvent myself again and upskill. Do I have the energy for it? Because as you said, a whole decade had passed and we'd done that. But, thankfully, and being true and honest, I am very excited about the time that we are living through. I think it's a bit of history, and you and I as educators and as practitioners get to be at the leading edge to bring businesses with us, because as small business owners, I absolutely know how transformational it has been. What in practice do you think it can do for business? Can we make more money? Can we scale like never before?
Yeah, a bit like yourself. When I first initially kind of started using ChatGPT and trying to kind of show off to your people you didn't know or who didn't have it, I can remember showing it to a client, 2-3 years ago. Then you could go down that rabbit hole, and I no doubt, like many people on this podcast, have talked about it, about the change in that. And for me, it started with the simple prompt, but now we're actually kind of gone very, very much into that sort of, like, kind of having agents. And within my own business, I have gone down that sort of deep rabbit hole, and I feel that still I'm only like, touching the surface. But it was, first of all, an experiencing kind of the look, feel, interaction with ChatGPT. There's no doubt about it. I then moved on then to kind of checking out Perplexity, the Gemini, Claude, and then you're looking at all of the iterations, like that sort of war between AI models and how that was playing out. But then, as you said, how does that, or how do I use that within my own setup? So as I went in terms of looking at my business, I wanted to see how I could actually not just work at the business, because a lot of our businesses are somewhat nearly broken, and we have this new system now, and we're trying to plug in a new system into a broken system. Okay. And that's what I actually found nearly after 2-3 months, that I just didn't think that it was working. It was great for prompts and this and that. And, turn yourself into Superman and fly here and fly there. And there's all sorts of really fun things you can do that in the prompts and get the daily shopping and, get my itinerary, for where I'm going on holidays next week. And if I go to a concert, to set up my journey, all of that is there for anybody who wants to use it. But when it comes to business, and what I've found as the biggest challenge of where I have to have to take a step back and nearly engineer my own business, because it was nearly broken because I didn't have the workflows correct. So if you can imagine, within a business, you have your chief market, your CEO, you have your finance department, you've got your IT department, you've got your social media department. And the thing about it is, even if it's in a small, medium-sized enterprise, or even a solo there, they still actually have a responsibility in all of those responsibilities. They still have to do their VAT returns, they still have to do their how we making money on a monthly basis, how we put out that last podcast, how we actually could have, done that social media post. How does it sound like kind of Lorcan Kinsella or Joanne Sweeney? All of these things were there. So it was a case of actually nearly building that contextual information around, say, for example, Brand Nova and our software piece, Nova 360, of how we could then work better workflows and now where we've kind of gone into, I suppose, I don't want to kind of overwhelm kind of that, your listeners, but where we've had to actually kind of build out the simple workflows on a daily basis. So where we get the daily brief of exactly kind of where our CEO, which you think is me, is now kind of my desk CEO, goes in and does a full pull from my accounting software package, Trello, and Google Analytics, Google AdWords, Google Search Console, across the board, SEM Rush. I've got connections into every single point or data point. And some of them weren't there, and some of them still aren't there within, say, for example, Claude. And that would be my main point. I suppose Claude would be my user interface. Okay, that's my main interface. So I would have had to build out MCP connectors to connect into my business again, of where I saw bottlenecks of where it couldn't get information to run it even more effectively. So when I kind of get up in the morning, emails have gone to all of my staff to kind of follow up on this on the back of actually yesterday's work. And that is what run now by agents, which is a very, very, I suppose, really enjoyable thing to watch. It's kind of like getting a new toy at Christmas, seeing this, that it's possible. Because I can tell you now, Joanne, I couldn't have envisaged this 10 years ago, that I could sit. It's something I think we would have always maybe managed, and particularly people in small, medium-sized enterprise, of where you found that you were doing everything. You were doing the lot, and it was very, very hard to touch. But then when you could have built your team and whatnot, and where all of the responsibility comes down to the CEO or the owner, that there's nearly now there's a kind of a hierarchy that you're not nearly you're not the one that they need to maybe kind of answer to. There's actually a system there that supports, and a very, very well rhythmed kind of monthly calendar across every department. As I said, your CEO department, your chief operations officer department, you have then your finance department, your IT, and everything is checked. It's not just done once. And it's something that I would have maybe mentioned years ago. And when I was lecturing with you, I think the winners in all of this, Joanne, I think they are the people who show up every day. So it's that sort of discipline, that it's that hard work, and it's the consistency of where you hit a challenge. And God knows I've hit so many different challenges around like kind of AI, of where an MCP connection broke and you have to rebuild it, or the context isn't right. But by pushing on, pushing, it's extraordinary kind of like how well it can, I suppose, improve business. And when it comes down to facts and figures, or figures more so, it has financially, yes, improved our bottom line in quite substantially, to be honest. Yeah.
Of all the AI conversations I've had, I've never heard someone describe, plugging in AI systems into a broken business and it's not going to work. And it's a brilliant analogy. So just explain to listeners and viewers who are watching it on YouTube why it's so important to have standard operating procedures if you want to use agentic AI.
Yeah, because the issue is actually workflows. And so what we've been working out of is models, and we've been working out of somewhat old models. So you can imagine that you've got a system, or what you could call a systematic model that's been in place for the last 10, 20 years. And you then look to plug it into what we see now, the new paradigm shift, agentic kind of agent models. And you've got an old system which is broken, plugging it into a much more dynamic, innovative, creative way. And you need to you need to talk a new language over here, not take a kind of a very old language, plug it into a new, and expect kind of amazing results. So that's where I see where you need to move from a model mindset into the workflow, because you'll find that we do somewhat nearly the same similar things on a daily basis, whether it be professionally and across even all your staff. It's a kind of, there's that sort of creative. But isn't it just an amazing idea that someone can take your tone, your voice, your brand, and actually move with that nearly kind of intuitively on a daily basis, and not have to check in with you, because you've built this really beautiful workflow that connects through your brand, through your whole, I suppose, standard operating procedures internally. And what we have done inside in Brand Nova ourselves, what we've built out the full standard operating procedure and toolkit from beginning, middle, and end, through kind of finance, through IT, through social media, through branding, through actually kind of our finances. Like, all of that is actually done. So it's not just we do it once, it's now a workflow. It works nearly like water. It's running all the time. It doesn't stop. When they're tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, you'll actually kind of jump in, and I mean, we haven't even put a name on it. Now, we're actually boring. We kind of unplug. I mean, but you call it whatever you want. But the CEO engine is actually running, connecting out to all of the stakeholders in your business, finding out, was that done, that done, that done, checking full Trello, where again, I would spend hours, Joanne. You can imagine, like, I always find that, what, time is our most precious commodity. Okay. It's our most precious commodity. And I think it's maybe kind of, as I'm getting older or whatever, you want to use that time. So like, doing so many things that you want to do. Right? For me, like, whether it be to play the guitar, I want to do, kind of the piano. I want to travel. I want to eat, cook new things. And I'm there saying, I don't want to be strapped to kind of, a PC kind of from 9 to 5. And this is actually maybe allowing me to do that, is spend a bit of time building it, but then where you can actually kind of move beyond that. And that's where the time piece is so important, is just giving me time back of where I can do things which I might not be able to do before, because there's actually now a very, very, I suppose, a very, very connected workflow system working throughout the business on an hourly, daily, weekly basis.
And you've really leveraged artificial intelligence by creating Nova 360, but this was all already in situ before AI became mainstream. But has AI accelerated its sophistication as well?
Yeah, we couldn't help ourselves, with AI and with Nova 360. And just to kind of give your your listeners, like, kind of what like Nova 360 is, going back again as 1 year. I can remember when I was lecturing, like, I was overwhelmed with information on Excel spreadsheets. And what I wanted was a very, very simple dashboard of where I could plug in all of my keywords to see exactly where they were positioned in real time. Okay. So I was pulling information from Google Analytics, Google Search Console, Google AdWords, Meta AdWords, your social media accounts. All of these things are actually sitting on separate dashboards here, there. And you can imagine as well, when I talk about time is precious, you look to see, well, we go on for that dashboard. That's losing for me time. Where we can't get the user ID and password. Well, we can't because Mary's left the business and she's taken the password and we can't find her because she's in Colombia on a kind of a around the world trip somewhere. It really kind of just stunts a business progress and stagnates. So what I wanted to do was I just wanted to bring all of that information into one interface, plug it in of where you could see exactly what was happening within your business and then compare it to your three competitors. So for the first time, you actually have a real sense of what is going on in the business, which for us, it's so, so important. We built this, I built this for Brand Nova. But I built it for Brand Nova to give me a visual data on my clients to find out how we could grow their revenue online. But now what we're doing is we're actually rolling it out to businesses just for them to see what's going on in their business. And then they can actually come back to Brand Nova and say, well, look, we have all of these gaps. Okay, well, how can we then close those gaps? And that's where I suppose I take the digital marketing strategy of then bringing in search engine optimization services, paid ad services, social media ad services to, I suppose, bring them either two things. Joanne, we are actually responsible for actually delivering leads to a company, which actually equals acquisition revenue, or we actually build e-commerce brands. And again, that's where we start with actually, whether it be 500,000, a million, or we grow the revenue. But we use it from the foundation level, I suppose, foundation layer of Nova 360 of seeing the information first. And it's only by seeing the information first, then we can grow. What I find, and the simplest analogy I can actually kind of share to, I suppose, clients is we're flying a plane, okay, but we've got no compass. This provides you with the compass. And I wouldn't expect anybody here to maybe kind of know it all. It's impossible to know all about search engine optimization, all about paid ads, social media ads. It's impossible. However, where we actually connect all of this in, we have experts in terms of how we deliver the services on that. And what I find, or the next connected kind of analogy to that would be Michael O'Leary kind of runs one of the biggest, and I think you actually kind of have words in there in the last number of days, most successful airline in the world, okay? And which is extraordinary. However, Michael does not fly the planes. Michael actually strategically knows how to kind of run a $1 billion kind of company, and that's pretty extraordinary stuff. But he can actually kind of provide the data, the information, the logistics, the whole strategic thing of how it works. And that's actually what any business can do with this here, is just see it. And we do it, but we first have to see the data first, and then we implement it.
And I guess the next natural step for a business is handing this dashboard to an agent, and the agent then uses the insight to then tweak campaigns or to, complete additional.
That's the kind of holy grail for me, is that have that next step. We're not there yet. We've spent the last 6 months kind of integrating kind of that AI kind of underbelly like this, where we're connecting in real time, much better updated results on whether it be Google AdWords, Google campaigns, and different things like that. But 100%, and this is the exciting part. This is actually what kind of really kind of gets me going, and why I'm still so much interested and so enthused, by digital marketing and why I do it day in, day out. People say you're mad, what drives you is what you just said, is actually the next step of where you can provide much better clarity and in a much more, I think as well, that it's not generic, Joanne, that sort of way. It's really talking to that specific business, whether it be kind of a pharmacy or whether it be a solar business or whether it be windows. It's not just kind of this one fit all type of mentality. It's really contextualized into that specific business. So that's really, really important to me, that Because I always find as well with all of this kind of AI, like that there's sort of that, and you miss that human touch, that sort of sense of connecting. Even yesterday, like I had a client, like, well, not even a client, but someone rang me, like, who's going to be a potential client, said, look, could I just meet you? I just want to meet you, and I take that really, I am going to meet them. I just couldn't meet them yesterday, but I will meet them and sit down and kind of go through them, because I still really believe like that you have to actually kind of do even what you're doing at the moment is getting people seeing your eyes, seeing what's kind of going on, seeing like, I suppose the passion behind what it is, but it doesn't make sense. It is happening. And it's bloody exciting. It's really, really exciting stuff. So yeah, I'm very, very excited for that next chapter now for Nova 360, and that how we're going to kind of, I suppose, kind of grow that market piece. Like, it's an exciting time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a real gift to small and medium enterprises and to owners who've been just up to their knees in the doing, whereas now we can do more of the thinking with our agents and our technology. So for anyone who's listening, who's, overwhelmed by artificial intelligence, but knows that there's huge potential for their business, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I was thinking about this, and again, depending on actually kind of the size of business, but because you can imagine, like, that we're at a space, or we're at a time at the moment of where we've kind of got through that, and that first phase of actually, okay, that it can actually kind of set up my itinerary, it can do all of these kind of tasks, and it's amazing or whatnot. But then we actually have where we want to introduce to a business, and that's actually sometimes a hard and gate to open for businesses, because you've got data, you've got, I suppose GDPR, you've got data, kind of like, kind of privacy issue. You also as well are plugging it into kind of very, very sensitive systems that companies have. And I think it's slow. See, people like we because I've moved at such a pace, is because I am a founder, owner, manager who has a passion and really loves this stuff. And I can make decisions much faster kind of going forward. I can see the power of it. But I have seen it in terms of where if we don't move, there is going to be risks that I think we all have to take. We can take them in measured. But if you stop and stand back and wait for another 2-3 years down the road, you're going to really lose competitive edge of how this can really, how can really affect the prosperity of your business, and how that grows, how your business grows over the next number of years. And you can be guaranteed that if you're not doing it, your competitor will find a way to do it. So it is a great time. I find that there was a bit of a gold rush kind of piece around it. I wouldn't have been as passionate about it maybe 6 months ago, but it's only from I've gone down the rabbit hole. I can see the opportunities there. For example, like, even like Nova 360, what we're doing in Brand Nova, we weren't doing it 6 months ago. Our level of client base is growing significantly because we're leveraging reports much better for clients. We're giving them better information. We're giving them better leverage through kind of Nova 360. All of those things were not possible. And even the administrative work, which was really just difficult to kind of pull in from so many departments, is nearly happening without any friction whatsoever. So that is just freeing up all of this maybe more creative time of where we can see now opportunities kind of where we wouldn't have seen those before, because we're so maybe deep in trenches of just doing the daily work. And if anything, kind of, Joanne, I think that's what it does. It just gives you an opportunity to breathe and see the possibility of what and how you can maybe grow, and see different avenues of how you can kind of grow your business.
So are you offering people like a free demo or a call to show them Nova 360? And if so, where can they go for it?
Very clear. We don't actually have kind of a free, because it was always, I suppose, designed for ourselves. And it's not something that we're saying, but we're just not there yet. But because we on board like our clients, because we need information first, once we show a client or a potential, like, Nova 360, it's a sign up. But then obviously it's where we spend a lot of our time is actually then coming in behind and actually plugging in our SEO services, paid ad services, social media services, as in now the ads. We don't do social media ads and email marketing. in terms of growing a brand's revenue. Okay, that's what we do. So we're not there yet, but what we have noticed in the last, certainly like, kind of 2 months since we kind of made the decision in-house to say, right, we're going to actually kind of put it out on a subscription basis. We put it out for €75, which is a fraction of the information, what you're going to get back in information of how you understand your business is just mind blowing. And we would have a consultant who would actually work with you, whether it be me or one of the team, to actually say, right, this is the right thing that I'm doing, or I need to actually say it's not for me. We haven't had any business connect in that has actually disconnected. So, so we're happy with that, and we're happy with the pace as well. So, but by all means, if anybody out there is looking to kind of get a demonstration, you've got a business and you're looking to get clarity, or you're not getting that sort of you're not getting that kind of really good factor, like or information from your current kind of agency or provider, whatever, by all means, Lorcan at brandnovadigital.com. I will certainly have a chat with you, and we can take it further then.
Brilliant. And they can also find you on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah, Lorcan Kinsella on LinkedIn. You'll see it pop up, black and white photo. You can't miss me. I'm there, and I'm not far from it.
Well, listen, Lorcan, great to catch up with you. Congratulations on what you're doing in your own business, but also the increases in revenue that you're doing for your clients. And yeah, let's keep experimenting with artificial intelligence and see where it takes us.
Yeah, look at it. I'd just like to take the opportunity, John. Thank you so much for this. Really, really enjoyed it. It's just fantastic to kind of get out at times and kind of talk to you. It's been such a long time, which has been great to touch space again. I think this is an exciting space, and I really look forward to what's coming down the tunnel now. So yeah, thanks again, and we look forward to seeing you again very, 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 very shortly.
Amazing. Thanks, Lorcan.